conspiracy, where did this start out? It started out with a bunch of shit online, but one of the biggest offenders was Marjorie Taylor Greene. Started some of these conspiracy theories online, on Twitter, and she picks them up from other sources. But here's the deal. You remember years ago she said the California wildfires were started by Jewish space lasers? Get ready for the sequel. Space Laser 2, Electric Boogaloo with Marjorie Taylor Greene. I am not fucking with you. This is real.
Tonight, we're looking into a story getting a lot of buzz in the last 24 hours. It claims Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene is implying Democrats caused Hurricane Helene to harm Republicans. And folks, this one is true. Last night, Greene wrote on X, quote, "Yes, they can control the weather. It's ridiculous for anyone to lie and say it cannot be done." While she didn't say exactly who they are, the post came just hours after Greene posted this map showing the political lean of the areas impacted by the hurricane. And as you can see, there is definitely more red than blue. Greene has pushed many conspiracy theories in the past, including some which have been called anti-Semitic. If you would like to submit a question to us, just go to 10news.com and click on fact.
So, yep, she started spreading these rumors that they can control the weather. Who's they? The Democrats, the Jews, probably the Jews. It's always been the Jews with her. She's an anti-Semite. She's one of those QAnon nutbags. And those guys are all anti-Semites. But
oh gosh.
Wait, this is part of what she tweeted. So I'm pretty sure this is no. Let me do this clip first. So I want to talk about, because this is her on climate change, and this is just to give you a sense of the Republican Party. They're big climate deniers, but how many of these massive once-in-a-century storms have we had in the last, 8 to 10 years? Like a dozen? And they still do this climate change denial shit. They're still yelling about electric vehicles. So here's this, here's this clip here. From, this is Alex Wagner on MSNBC.
Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene delivered this very interesting take on climate change.
This is an older clip, by the way.
People are not affecting climate change. You're going to tell me that back in the Ice Age, how much taxes did people pay and how many changes did governments make to melt the ice? The climate is going to continue to change.
Did woolly mammoths pay taxes? Yeah, exactly. They drove diesel trucks, too. What? The same day, over on the Senate side, another Republican, Wisconsin's Ron Johnson, suggested the climate crisis could be a good thing because Wisconsin is cold. And so if climate change makes it warmer, then why wouldn't we take comfort in that?
There's also the party that, remember, they said, hey, there isn't climate change because it's snowing outside, and the guy brought a snowball into the Senate to prove that climate change wasn't happening. They've switched. They switched from the climate isn't changing to, okay, it's changing, but it's not man-made. And that's been their dialogue recently. But the funny thing about it is, I've had this discussion so many... Go ahead.
What does Marjorie Greene think is happening? Like, the government is identifying who it is or is not paying what, and then they go out there with the blow dryers or something to, like, melt ice to like... What on God's green earth does she think is happening?
Well, these scientists have explained this, and it's very clear, which is, yeah, the climate does always change. We're on the crust of a cooling planet. There's going to be tectonic shifts. There's going to be different events that happen. But you're talking over scales of hundreds of thousands of years, or millions of years, right? When they're talking about that. Now they're talking about, we're seeing rapid overall average temperature growth on the planet, and massive climate changes and more devastating storms and crop losses and lives lost and diseases that are evolving from the new environment that's being created. And we're seeing it at a much more rapid pace in spans of like 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, not hundreds of thousands to millions. That's what they're talking about. And yeah, you can make changes there, just by how we behave and how much shit we put in the air and how much trash we throw out and But that's the thing. But here's John Iadarola, because he's my Marjorie Taylor Greene whisperer on his show, The Damage Report. Because he actually takes the time to go through a Twitter feed, which, frankly, kids, we're not going to do. We're not going to spend that much time on Twitter. But here
Besides,
it
you don't want to have to take that much aspirin to calm the headache that it would give you to try to read all over crap.
Yeah, we don't have a Twitter page. just to give you a hint, the show does not have a Twitter page. We don't care. But that's what we have John for. John's going to explain to us what she's been posting on Twitter. And it's fun. It's a doozy, everybody.
Lasers, ...
So here's-
CBS 9 years ago talked about lasers controlling the weather. And it's just a screen that says,
So this is her justification. There was an interview on CBS 9 years ago about lasers controlling the weather. This is what she's talking about. This is her interview. And here it is. It's an interview with Michio Kaku. And he talks about this, and they were experimenting with this.
I mean, lasers? Really? To change the weather?
That's right. Well, as Mark Twain once famously said, everyone complains about the weather, but no one ever does anything about it. Well, instead of doing a rain dance, we physicists are firing trillion-watt lasers into the sky to actually precipitate rain clouds and actually bring down lightning bolts. The bad news is, if it's a clear blue sky, it's not going to do anything at all, because it only takes water vapor that's already in the air and condenses it. However, for floods, for agriculture, farmers, for people planning wedding parties, football games, you name it, outdoor events and agriculture and flooding and even hurricanes, all of them could be subject to weather modification.
So,
okay, so yes.
Here's what he's talking about. And here's where they took it. He's talking about you can't create weather in that sense. What you can do is prevent certain things from happening by condensing the water in the rain clouds, in the clouds, to rain earlier. So let's say hurricane is brewing over the ocean, right? Theoretically, and we don't have this technology yet. They're still experimenting with it and playing with it. Theoretically, we could send a bunch of ships out there to fire these trillion-watt lasers at the clouds to get them to precipitate more of the water over the ocean before it hits land, so the hurricane's not as devastating. We could prevent floods from happening by precipitating a lot of the water out of the rain, or out of the cloud, getting it to rain over areas that aren't, subject to flooding. We could spread out the rain a little bit more. That's all he's talking about. But she thinks that there's some conspiracy where they can make a hurricane with lasers. Like this is a fucking Superman comic book, and Lex Luthor's out there fucking making hurricanes to try and up his real estate value. I mean, it's just weird shit. But that's where this is going. So it's all the fucking nutbags take it and run with it. And if you guys want to know how crazy this shit is, I talked to my mother the other day. She's like, I talked to your grandmother, and your grandmother's telling me that they created the hurricane. So even my 90-year-old grandmother heard this shit and spewed it out. You still there, Lacey? Oh, there you go. God. So yeah.
Oh my.
That's how fucking far these conspiracy things travel. It's psychotic. So.